Hey, let's take a look at Google. Last time we checked, it was trading at 129. Now it's at 135. Let's just take a look at the story behind that little change over the past roughly 10 days. And then we'll pivot into the technical analysis just to see, is 135 a good price? And if not, what is a good price? So to just start off, Google's mentioned quite a bit. So Google criticized a proposed patent office policy change citing AI tech. The claim is it will bottleneck innovation as it's currently too broad. This is bad if a small company comes out with a new AI tool because due to the broadness of the current trademark agreement, a company like Google can't build upon the base idea without infringing on that copyright. So this is a new technology. We will see how this just the nuances of this, and we'll kind of mention that in another article that kind of hints at this as well. Google vows more transparency on ads as a new EU rule kicks in. Any firm found in breach of what they're calling the DSA, this Digital Service Act, faces a fine up to 6% of its global turnover, and repeat offenders may be banned from the Europe altogether. So yes, Google's gonna just do what they want here. Again, it's just for the ads. They want to be they're looking into what exactly is being filtered out, and is it at the appropriate levels. Here we also have Google defeated a Republican National Committee spam filter lawsuit. Candidate claimed that their marketing emails were purposefully put into spam folders due to their affiliation with the Republican National Committee. That doesn't seem to be the case, and Google won this situation. We also have a U.S. judge set to decertify a Google Play class action. The judge plans to free Google from having to defend against a class action by 21 million consumers who claimed it violated federal antitrust law by overcharging them in its Google Play App Store. This could significantly reduce damages to Google, might owe over the distribution over Android mobile applications. Consumers claimed they would have paid less for apps and enjoyed expanded choice, but for Google's alleged monopoly. So two court cases, it looks like Google's won them. We'll see if they spark back up, but these look like they're done with, so good job Google there. Next, we also have Google unveiled enterprise AI tools and new AI chips. So they had this meeting. It's called the Google Next Conference, and they unveiled a swath of fresh artificial technology and partnerships, including new customers for its cloud software, such as General Motors and Estee Lauder companies. Made public a new version of its custom-built AI chips, unveiled an enterprise-scale tool to watermark and identify images generated with AI, plus tools for security and its Office suite. It added 20 AI models, bringing the total to 100. Includes deals to bring Google Cloud customers access to Meta Platforms, AI model, and its Llama 2 program. So I'm just kind of pointing out the headlines. Again, lots of kind of very specific, like it goes through a handful of these AI models. But again, I'm just trying to pick what I felt were the biggest items from this conference. The new chip called TPU v5e is designed to train large models, but also efficiently serve content from those models. And then a continuation of that, Google made its artificial intelligence powered tools available to enterprise customers at a monthly price of $30 per user. This price is the same as rival Microsoft's Copilot AI powered Office software suite. So they're getting in this business line. We will see who kind of gets the gain in market share, if it's going to be a 50-50 split between Google and Microsoft, or just how much market share is in there. But this is exciting from the Google end, a new revenue generator. We'll see how big this builds up, especially going into this first quarter. Probably won't see the impacts until next quarter, but that's pretty exciting to have a new product like this. And it's a good one if it's competing with Microsoft. Down here, we also have Google Cloud to open office in El Salvador in a 7-year partnership. So Google Cloud and the government of El Salvador announced a multi-year agreement. Will establish an office and deliver Google distributed cloud services in Central America country. The 7-year strategic partnership is pending legislative approval. Will focus on the areas of digital government, healthcare, and education. El Salvador, obviously, a lot smaller country than the United States. Uh, but we'll see how that kind of impacts, especially if this kind of branches out into all of Central America potentially. Uh, but we'll just see how this plays out. We also have the U.S. Senate Schumer to host an AI forum. So we kind of touched on this in the beginning, but here's this forum to kind of see what AI policies kind of need to be in place. Because again, this is a new technology, and we have these leaders who probably aren't really into what it is. And so to have all the kind of smart people that know what's going on here kind of break it down, and hopefully they can get something that's understandable, fair, and kind of doesn't cross lines and, continues to lead to innovation. Google also introduces generative AI to search in India and Japan. I believe this has already been introduced here in America. I feel like I've seen it on Google search, on my Google search. Maybe you have too. Sounds like it's now going to be in a couple other countries. So we'll see if people actually like it. Uh, there's also complaints against Google's Fitbit. So Fitbit forces its users to consent to data transfers outside the EU and does not provide the possibility to withdraw their consent, which violates this GDPR requirement. Fines of this can reach up to 4% of the firm's annual revenue, and Google last year apparently made about 280 billion, so that's quite a lot of money. I have to imagine companies this size break off little segments, so if this were to be the case, I feel like Fitbit has its own silo, and so this would impact Fitbit's revenue, which obviously is a lot less than 280. That's just a guess. I would have to dig into it to say for certain, but that's what I think makes the most sense. That's what would be fair. But this is early stages. We'll see what actually plays out. But the advocacy group wants Fitbit to be forced to share all mandatory information about the data transfers with its users and allow them to use the app without having to consent to these transfers. Seems like a simple fix, but again, early stages, we'll see how this plays out and what kind of agreement they can reach. We also have Google hit with a copyright lawsuit by Danish online job search rival. Job Index has accused Google of copying job ads to its own service without permission and wants compensation and damages for copyright violations. So this is kind of like preferring Google's job offers compared to this Job Index site. Again, very new. Not sure if it's even a thing, but it kind of is reasonable to make that assumption. But again, it's very early. We'll see how this actually evolves. Continental, the car maker, integrates Google Cloud into vehicle cockpit. Companies from Google to Apple and Amazon are in a race to control car makers' dashboards as software becomes an integral part of car design. Car makers including GM, Renault, Nissan, and Ford use embedded Google technology via Google Automotive Services gas package, offering features like Google Maps, Google Assistant, and other applications. We'll see if they can build that out, but that's a pretty good resume right there. GM, Renault, Nissan, and Ford. That's pretty good party to be in there. Haven't seen this feature. I think it's kind of new, but maybe not. Maybe I think pieces. I mean, Google Maps. I feel like I've seen that in cars, but Um, yeah, we'll see how this kind of evolves in terms of revenue. I want to see this broken out on their next financial statements, and we'll see how adding a company like Continental will impact this. I can't imagine it would move it that much, but we'll see. Here I came across a couple highlights, and then we'll pivot into the technical analysis. So Google's to invest another 1.7 billion into Ohio data centers to support 3 data center campuses in Central Ohio, within Columbus, Lancaster, and to expand the new Albany facility. So we should definitely see that on the cash flows. Uh, Unless that's going to be spread out over time. But yeah, 1.7 would pop for sure. HCA partners with Google Cloud to use artificial intelligence in its hospital. New collaboration to improve nurse and physician workflow using generative AI. Uh, I think Google and another company within like that big 5, big 10 companies in terms of market market cap. Uh, Google and maybe like Microsoft, I think are trying, or I believe it's Amazon, are trying to get into the healthcare sector and team up. So I'm not sure how big HCA is. Didn't mention any dollars, but it's nice to see they are pivoting there and they're making headway in it. Google also expected to unveil its new phones at October 4th event. So they scheduled its Made by Google event for October 4th in New York City, and they're expected to unveil its new Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro phones and an updated smartwatch. So I just looked at Apple recently. They have a similar event coming up in about a week, maybe a week and a half. Google has their events roughly a month away. So we'll see how this drives the share price over time. Google also commits to at least $600 million to build out a new Dallas-Fort Worth data center. Data centers are popping. So they plan to invest $330 million in Texas this year, with an additional commitment to invest at least $600 million in its new data center site in Red Oak. So we should also be able to find that on the cash flow statement. That's pretty noticeable. But yeah, they're growing, they're expanding. I feel like this is all good news that they can afford to do these types of activities. Here we have the analysts. So nothing's really changed from May 24. You see the date here. I did check. Very slight changes. We're talking like 0.01, 0.02 on the revenue. Not worth updating that. And then down here at the bottom, this is how we saw it last week. So we mentioned at the beginning that it went from 129 to about 135 today. And we had a buy point at 121. It looks like we also had 129. If we wanted to reach a little bit, would have been okay. We also saw a resistance at 142. And we noticed the short-term uptrend since January still in play, and to buy the dips, with their beating expectations and guiding higher in Q3. So let's just take a look. Right off the bat, everything looks exactly how we've been seeing it. This uptrend since January, that is still intact, noted by the purple lines. We drew in this blue line. I'm not sure if that was here before or not. I believe it was. But yeah, that's the dead center of that purple line. Or at least it's very close to it. I believe it's dead center, but yeah, either way, that's like the midpoint roughly that we're going to call fair value. And so right now, being at the top of this uptrend range, I personally don't like the price at that point. If it pulled back to where I said before about 128, we did notice some support there. That's why we have this little faint green line here, because we noticed it, we wanted to call it, but it's not the strongest thing, but we noticed it here. It happened where we just kind of traded sideways. Ideally for me, what would have happened is, and it still potentially can happen, is it will trade sideways for maybe another month, and it pulls, and that's the crazy thing, I guess, is 128 right here It's okay, but it's not great. But if I saw 128 over here, which would be more noticeably at the bottom of the channel, I would probably buy it like in a heartbeat. But it's just a weird thing how timing goes. And again, I'm just kind of basing it on the technical. So based on what I'm seeing, we have this uptrend. We're at the top of the range, so I don't like that. The first point again that I would consider is 128, which it just was, and we actually passed on it. I remember I looked at it and I said I want it to pull back. Again, I'm looking for 121. That's the bottom of the range. Even now, going into next week, it's still on the table. It's very unlikely, but we can see. I mean, it's had huge accelerations. Potentially next week, it could have a very hard pullback. And if it did, yes, I would want to pick that up. And if I catch it, I will pick it up. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll just see what happens. But so for me, probably 128, which again, we passed on it, but that's also because we have a decent Google position. If I didn't and I just wanted to get some, I would have been okay with that. Because again, we had some support here, and because of the uptrend, that might be the biggest type of pullback we're going to get, is to roughly fair value. And that's been the case since about May. Not until before May have we seen it dip below that midpoint roughly. And as I zoom out, there's slight support here going back into early 2022, and that's kind of why we drew in that green line. But yeah, right now that's what I'm looking for. I would like it to pull back to, looking at next week specifically, less than 128, and ideally 122. I've already passed on 128 before, but as time goes on, like I said, if it comes to the end of the month and it's still at 128, then yeah, I will pick it up because clearly there's support there, and this uptrend is going to have to push it forward. So again, that's just how I'm viewing this. Let me know how you're looking at it and what price points you're looking at of picking this up. Is this worth it for you right now? Just curious to know. But otherwise, just a quick summary. We have Google here. I don't like the price right now, so I'm marking it red. I still have a buy point of 121, but 128, I would at least consider it. Resistance, notably at 142. I want to see how it responds at that point. And then 137 is the top of the uptrend. So it's near resistance. I'd like it to pull back a little bit more before adding it. Earnings not expected for another roughly 2 months. And that short-term uptrend still in play. I'm still looking to buy the dips. It beat expectations for Q2, guided higher for Q3. We'll see. Because again, earnings come out in about 2 months. But that's it. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, let me know. Otherwise, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.